hates looking like the bad guy. And so he's trying to soften the story by turning it into like, oh, in the very beginning of our relationship, I was talking to another woman. No, that's not true.
Yeah, but that's the sex thing's on you.
Because my brain,
you're creating the toxicity.
But this therapy had me reflecting on my own behavior since I've been here, and a lot of the frustration that I live in my marriage, I've been projecting to others.
You have a family, you want to get married. Even your attitude, like when this guy give you like the leftovers, you act like a puppy, so desperate.
Down to be adventurous, let's explore. Asshole.
We are nearing the end of the season, and the telltale signs are that everyone is becoming insane, turning against each other. People that are supposed to be friends are not being friendly. People that are supposed to be lovers are becoming enemies. It is a mess. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé, The Last Resort, and what a mess it was. We're going to dive straight in. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new here. We are hopping straight into the hypnotherapy session because it really does get worse. A reminder that the hypnotherapist gave them all an assignment to basically tap into a moment where they did their partner wrong, a moment where they recognize that they hurt their partner and what they would do differently, right? So we dive straight into the whole aftermath of Julia admitting that she cheated on Brandon with her ex. And Julia at this point is saying things that I think she thinks are going to make it better, but it's obvious that these are lies that she told herself to live with herself. She's like, oh, we were long distance. We didn't see each other a lot. I didn't think that you would take us seriously. So yeah, that's why I did it. But like, I'll never do it again. I love Julia, but I think that was such a BS response. No one made you be in a long distance relationship. You chose that, and that comes with the territory. You're gonna see each other maybe a few times. So you making out with your ex in this situation is never gonna be okay. And I've seen the discourse online about this, and people are like, it happened so long ago, like it shouldn't matter. And I'm divided and like, yeah, like it shouldn't matter. She should have kept that to the grave. Like she shouldn't have said anything. But now it's out in the open, and if I were Brandon, I too would be struggling with this. He's seated there, color has left his body because he's like, you're the person that I'm supposed to trust. And what I assume is happening is that he's like recounting all of the memories that they had and being like, was she cheating on me then? But even watching this scene back, you guys, I really think that my theory is correct. I think that Julia is trying to sabotage her relationship because there was no other reason really to bring it up. And I'm sticking to the sabotage theory because even as she's talking about this event, she's not apologizing to Brandon. She just keeps saying how like this was eating at her for 5 years and she just had to let it out. Very much about how she feels about the situation and not recognizing the shock that she's inflicting. I want to empathize with her, but I'm also like, girl, like you've had 5 years to sit with this. Brandon is just hearing this. So I'm like, But she's saying that it was important for her to reveal that information because I guess this is what's been eating at her. This is why she can't really dive into therapy. So she just needed to get that off her chest. I want to get her with that, but I'm also like, all of your problems, unless they're derived from this piece of information, I don't think it was necessary to stir up this kind of drama. Because from what it sounds like, this isn't an insecurity that Brandon even had. So can you imagine being like, damn, my wife won't sleep with me. She doesn't want to have kids with me. And now I'm hearing that she's cheated on me before. Could it be that she is continuing to cheat on me now? Could it be that she's not attracted to me? I'm sure his brain is just doing the most right now. And so it is just uncomfortable. And again, you guys, to have this conversation, to have this revelation happen to you in front of a bunch of people that are ready to pick your relationship apart is not ideal. And I think the therapist picked up on that. I don't think she was prepared to unpack this in front of the group. So she's like, we'll talk about this in your one-on-one session. Anyway, I'm just going to go down the line of the couples of what they said really quickly. Sophie says her big moment that she regrets is basically like airing out Rob's business in front of her friends while they were getting in an argument, which doesn't surprise me, but I am surprised she apologized. That's not very much in her character. Rob apologizes about that first girl, the initial time that he, was sexting with someone and cheating on Sophie. And I was cracking up because he was trying to be so sincere. And he's like, yeah, you know, I feel like that girl, that moment, that changed everything. And I'm like, okay, you're apologizing for girl number 1. How about girl number 2? Girl number 3? Girl number 4? Because you're apologizing, but you've done it a few more times since. So Stacey and Florian, I feel like are just here for the vibes, because Stacey's like, yeah, you know, I've said the D word. I've said divorce in a few fights. And I'm not saying that's not a big deal. Like, you shouldn't do that, I've heard. But I feel like out of all the couples, I'm like, girl, that's it. Florian, of course, his regret is cheating. And he's like, you know, what I do, I would not do the cheating. And that's it. That was it for them. Up next is Josh. And this man really just continues to prove how much of a trash bag he is and how much he does not care for Natalie. He doesn't even view her as someone that is worth the work. When they ask him if he can think of a moment where he hurt Natalie, a moment that he regrets, he says no. He says that he can't think of a moment where he's like, you know what, I should call her up and ask for forgiveness. And Natalie is like giggling in like a scary way because she's super calm, but she's just like, no way, because I could think of a few times that you could have called and apologized, but she's not saying anything. She's really trying to keep it cute. There's a siren. I feel like she's constantly expressing ways that he hurts her. He hasn't invited her to his home. He hasn't presented the kids. He won't define the relationship. He won't take her on trips. Like, the list goes on. And you're telling me you can't think of not one thing? You don't care enough even to pretend to be involved in this activity? Like, why is this man on the show, you know? And Natalie, again, is trying to swallow her pride. But, you know, she has to throw a jab. When it gets to her turn, she's like, you know what? I regret, you know, there was a time that he was going to leave and I didn't want him to leave. And I said some mean things to him. But now reflecting on that, I really just need to let people go when they don't want me. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, you should let go people that don't want you. You should stop begging it. You should stop begging for it, I mean. But I feel like we find ourselves in this position with them a lot, where she's capable of having this revelation, but then she goes and continues to chase him the minute he even just smiles at her direction. So pitiful. So then Jasmine and Gino. Jasmine says that like there was their first Christmas ever in America. They got into a fight, I guess, and she says that she spent it at a hotel without him. And it was like this whole sob moment. And they're like hugging and she's like, Gino, I'm so sorry for everything. I'm sorry. Even if we don't end up together, please forgive me. I will always love you. And he's like hugging her, and it's a lot, because I'm like, what's happening here? Like, what even goes on with you guys? And Gino, it gets to his turn, and he can think of a moment where he hurt Jasmine, but he doesn't care to share it with the group. That's literally the point, Gino. Everyone's like, hello, like, share it. And he won't. He just won't. And Jasmine is freaking out because she's like, everyone here has basically had a confession about cheating. Did Gino cheat on me? Is that what he's holding back? And so after people keep begging him for some time, he doctors up like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that I always tell you that you should go back to Panama after every fight. Both Jasmine and his boyfriend Florian clock it, and they're like, Gino, you're a liar. You just changed your answer to that. That's not the real answer. And it's just so disappointing. But again, like, I honestly feel like this marriage is in shambles because they are both chaotic in different ways. But I think that it's so hypocritical of Gino to be on here being like, Jasmine hasn't fulfilled anything in my list. That's why I won't touch her with a 10-foot pole. But he's not doing anything. He's not even interacting in therapy. It's truly painful to watch. But then we get to Ari and Bini. And Ari, I think her father or something was a therapist. So she's really good at like saying a lot of nothing, but it sounds nice. She says something basic like, yeah, I'm just sorry about, the negative words that I use when I refer to Bini or talk about him. Which is like, you sure you don't have any regrets? Because you're not perfect in this, you know? But then it gets to Bini's turn, and Bini starts apologizing about his blurred timelines. He has already told us that he was with someone before he got with Ari, and then Ari got pregnant, and he was still keeping communication up with that old girl while also dealing with Ari. And he says he regrets doing that because he was trying to protect everyone's feelings, but he ended up hurting everyone involved. We've heard this story. I think that it was messy to begin with. Of course, as he's explaining his mumbo jumbo, Ari can't help herself and she has to critique and break apart everything this man says. If you don't agree with what this man is saying, let him talk himself into the web. But you cutting in, we're never going to get his full story. But she can't help herself. And she's like, I'm sorry, which girl? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you know, the girl before you. And I think he was trying like not to say the girl's name on camera, but he was like, you know who I'm talking about. And she's like, no, because I started dating you 3 months after your ex-wife. And I think this is Ari's way of trying to rewrite the story of her not being a side chick, but it also highlights just how messy of a timeline Bini has just led in his life, because I do believe that he probably was cheating on his ex-wife, or probably was at the tail end of that relationship when he started with that girl in Ethiopia and then he got with Ari. I think he was trying to balance 3 different timelines. And so I think that he's trying to be coy about the fact that there was cheating at some point. Ari is trying to make it clear that the cheating happened while she was already pregnant, not before, or not like something that like she was a side chick in. And so they're fighting at this point. And this is not supposed to be a fight. This is supposed to be a kumbaya moment. And that's what Bini is saying. Bini's like, I am giving you a general apology. Why won't you take it? And Ari's like, well, I can't accept the fake apology because you're trying to rewrite history and the timeline is off. And it's like, to the point that the therapist is like, Ari. Because she turned this into something that it was not supposed to be. So the hypnotherapist is like, let's not attack each other. Let's just... This session is over and they're supposed to go to the campgrounds and like enjoy the rest of their evening. And I just don't know how they think that this is going to be a good time when they have exposed so much ugly in these relationships, you know? Like there isn't any aftercare. Like after you make such big revelations, shouldn't you have like an individual check-in with your partner? Why isn't that something that's mandated in this therapy resort situation? Quick roundup on Julia and Brandon. Julia and Brandon go to the side and he's basically like, I wish I didn't know this. And she's like, we're here for the truth, right? And he's like, yeah, only if the truth is beneficial. And again, he has the same question. How does this apply to anything that's going on with us in present day? This is when she tells him that this is why she has had this block within her to be physical, to be amorous, to even accept therapy. She needed to tell him the truth and release this. She also refers to this as like toxicity. And she says it. She's like, we have a lot of toxic habits in our relationship and I just needed to release it. And sure, I understand where she's coming from. I just feel that this kind of honesty does not work for everyone, and I think that it may actually set them back far more than when they entered this resort. And aside from being hurt, I think that Brandon is embarrassed. She revealed this information in front of everyone. This is certainly not group therapy material. And he's also pissed. So he's like, I can't even look at you. And so he's not sleeping with her that night. And so he is making up his own tent. Rob is helping him. And Rob, of course, is empathizing with Julia because obviously he's a cheater too. And he's like, you know, you were long distance. Like, I remember how it was for me. You know, you just never know, like, if you're going to be serious or not. And Brandon is like, we were engaged at that point. We were already in the midst of doing K1 visa paperwork. She knew we were serious. And that is where the empathy leaves my body. Because Julia talking about, I didn't know we were going to be serious. We only saw each other a few times. And I'm like, girl, if you're going to be truthful all of the way. That is, I don't know if I could recover from that. And again, yes, I know that it was 5 years ago. But the way that my mind works, the way that trust works, maybe I'm not mature enough. Like, cheating is not something I can get past. I don't care how little, how big the extent of it all was. I wouldn't want to know, I don't think. I mean, if I were Brandon in his situation of being married, this was 5 years ago, I would have preferred to not have known. Because now that I even know a little bit, I want to know everything. And I know that's not even helpful, but it's something that, like, your mind just wants to know. Like, how many times did you guys kiss? Was that the only thing you did? Did he go to your house? Did you go to him? Did you lie to me that day? Like, like, it's not healthy. Julia should have kept that to herself or break up with me, because I just can't. But anyway, everyone is dispersed. There's a moment where Stacey and Florian are, having this cute little chit chat. It looks like they're having a solo romantic time in the desert. In comes Jasmine and is like, can I sit with you guys? And at first I was like, Jasmine, read the room. They're having a couples moment. Also, aren't you and Florian beefing? And you could see Florian tense up because he's like, I'm ready to fight if she's ready to fight. I'm also ready to play nice if she plays nice, And Jasmine comes with all the humility and she's like, I think that I've taken out all of my rage and sadness about Gino, and I have been projecting, and I might have caused tension between you two, and I'm really sorry about that. And she apologizes to Florian too about like her lashing out at him, to which he apologizes back. And he kind of gives her a lecture, like, you need to, relax, like, you need to let him have fun. Not every day, but, like, if he's having a good moment, like, let him be happy. And Jasmine's like, Florian, you're my only hope. Can you please talk to Gino? But ultimately, Florian is like, I'm going to talk to Gino. To which Jasmine is like, can you, though? Can you talk to Gino? Because I think you're my last hope. He won't talk to me. He won't talk to the therapist. You're it. But what I think is funny is that Jasmine is like, I've reflected so much in this hypnotherapy, especially about my actions while I've been at this resort. But then in the next scene, by the fire with everyone, she is up to the same old shenanigans. I'm like, girl, you learned nothing. So we're now by the fire. Everyone's hanging out. Brandon sees that there's only one seat next to Julia, and he kind of huffs, but sits next to her. He's not even talking to her. He's looking to the side. Julia's talking to Sophie. She's not even looking his direction. And I'm like, I don't know. When I'm upset, I don't want space, really. If I tell you that I want space and I'm still next to you, I don't want space. If I tell you I want space and I physically remove myself, then you leave me alone. But he's right next to you. This is your husband. You're not going to like scoot next to him. You're not going to check in. Nope. She didn't even look his way. So ultimately, he just gets up and goes back to the tent. And that's it for Brandon for the evening. So he's off to spiral in his tent. But y'all, everyone is eating s'mores, getting Americanized. And there is Natalie just roasting a potato. And this potato, it is burnt to a crisp. And Josh is like, Natalie, don't eat that. Don't eat that. And she's like, I'm so lucky. There are people that have less than this. There are people that are less fortunate. And everyone is like making comments about it, and she's eating it, and you could see just how black this potato is. Like, it is not edible, but she is making this her personality, okay? She is different. She is quirky. She's making a performance out of eating this black ass potato. But you guys know that it won't be long before Jasmine, the shitster, steps into the scene, okay? Jasmine is like, so Josh, I think that it's interesting that you were the only person that couldn't think of a reason to apologize. And he says the same old word salad, and Jasmine is like, so could it be that you don't think you need to apologize because you don't see her as your partner? Natalie is so annoyed at this, you guys, because even though Natalie was obviously upset when this happened in hypnotherapy, she came into this evening being like, you know what? I'm going to keep the peace. Even though I have a lot of questions, I'm going to keep the peace because he's a flight risk, and I'm just happy that he's here. And that is so sad for her, but that is her mindset. So she's looking at Jasmine like, shut up. I don't want this man to leave me. So Josh is giving Jasmine the BS of like, you know, we are here to figure out if we're going to be in a relationship, which is crazy because that's not what the last resort is for, you know? Jasmine is like, Natalie, you say that you want family. This guy gives you leftovers and you're like after him like a puppy. To which Natalie's like, well, I like puppies, so there's that. And since you're gonna insult me, pass me the wine. I might as well be drunk. And Jasmine she's being a shit stirrer, but she's trying to get through Natalie that this isn't an insult to her. It's an insult to Josh and the games that he's playing with her. Everyone is trying to get her to wake up. But I also feel like if someone wants to be blind, let them. There are only so many times that these examples can be thrown in her face before she gets it. But then Stacey is like, Natalie, do you love him? And she says yes. And then she asks the same to Josh. And Josh says, well, I've cared for her all of our relationship. And Stacey's like, okay, well, that's not love, though. And he's like, you think that I would do all this if I didn't love her? Well, then why don't you just say you love her? But at the same time, I'm like, no, if you don't mean it, don't say it, but also don't try to insult everyone's intelligence. Like, we see right through what you're doing, you know? And then Natalie, I don't know if she thought that this was gonna be like, oh yeah, girl boss moment. It was very strange, but she was talking about basically like liking the chase. She likes the adrenaline rush that she gets. She likes the drama that her and Josh have. Like, it keeps things exciting. And everyone's like, this isn't a game. If that's the case, why are y'all here? Doesn't seem like you really want to solve anything. Like, Natalie is a bit of a sicko. And I think we've all been there. Love is an addiction. And I think it's a combination of it being one-sided, a combination of her insecurities, a combination of being with someone that is super self-absorbed. Like, it is all of the bad things in a cocktail. But there's no saving her, you know? And she's like, okay, can we talk about someone else? Because, like, are we done talking about me? To which Jasmine is like, no one wants to be open about their issues because you guys are not taking it seriously. Why would we say anything in front of you guys? To which Josh passive-aggressively gets up and grabs Natalie, and they just run off. They're like, okay, the floor is open. You guys can say whatever you want. And it's just so funny to me that Natalie and Josh only get along when it's them against the world. When there aren't any external factors, any external drama, and it's just them having to live with themselves, it never works. He does not like her like that. But after they leave, everyone else kind of disbands shortly after. And I know that it's a campground, you guys, but it is a relationship cemetery. Brandon and Julia are sleeping in separate tents. Jasmine and Gino have a wall of luggage in between them as a divider. Like, they can't even bear to touch each other. Bini and Ari are kind of like bickering a little bit because she wants to cuddle and he's like, stay away from me. When we see Natalie and Josh, he's like, I'm hot, like, get off me, stop touching me. And she's like, It is just horrible. But the next morning, we see everyone getting ready for breakfast and they're like catching up, how their nights went. Josh is complaining about Natalie and she looks miserable. Then there's Rob saying that he thought that he had a good night, but then Sophie is acting a little pissed with him. Of course, there's only one person for the job to tell us the tea. They pan to Jasmine going to Sophie's tent, and Sophie tells us that it's been a rough few days. Interesting, right? Because we haven't heard of this. She tells Jasmine that she has been seeing that Rob has been talking to other girls the whole time they've been at the resort. And then she pulls out her phone and, like, I guess it's receipts, but only Jasmine sees it. And it sounds like it's a profile on a dating site where he's like looking for someone adventurous. And I saw a clip for next week, and I think it was in Between the Sheets, where Jasmine basically is in Sophie's ear being like, put him on blast. Everyone thinks he's so nice. Tell everyone, expose him. which is going to be wild. Also, we're going to see a blowout with Natalie and Josh, because I think Natalie's going to call him out on the fact that he didn't want to be affectionate while they shared a tent, and she like hints that he body shamed her. I'm sure that's a misunderstanding, but at the same time, Josh is awful. And sure, there's also going to be a blowout between Bini, because Ari apparently is going to have a fit comparing Bini and Rob, being like, why can everyone see that Rob is a cheater, but y'all can't see that Bini is? I think because people don't like you. But yeah, no, they're both definitely in the same category. But you and Sophie are also in the same category. It's just a mess. Truly a relationship cemetery. But yeah, you guys, that was it for this week's The Last Resort. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.